Hoi! Today I want to talk to you guys about studying translation at university. I've already made a video about studying English language and culture at Leiden University, which you can watch right here. And this video will kind of be a sequel to that one because this time I'll be talking about my master's. So it took 3 years to do my bachelor's degree, and I was planning on then doing 1 year of translation and literature courses for my master's. Because of several mishaps and me missing a letter and things like that, I was too late to sign up for the translation program. Fortunately, university in the Netherlands isn't too expensive. It's about 1,700 euros a year. So I decided to do a full year of literature classes and then for the next year sign up for translation. I don't think I was quite ready to be done with university yet. So after a year of doing literature courses, which felt fairly similar to what I'd been doing in the last year of my bachelor's degree, I finally got to take my first translation courses. So for the first semester we had several different courses and they were kind of split between legal and literary translation. So legal would mostly be legal documents, medical documents, forms and websites, and then literary translation would be fiction and poetry. So they kind of made us do both so we could discover what we wanted. And basically the general idea seems to be that if you want an actual job in real life, you should do legal translation. But I really didn't like legal translation. It's a lot more of like learning all these terms that you need to know and then applying them. And I felt like literary translation was a lot more of like this complicated puzzle, and it was so much more fun to me. So in the second semester when you had to make a decision, I decided to go with literary translation. We had several speakers who worked in translation come in and talk to us, and mostly what they would say was, "Oh, you think you can do this as a full-time job? Good luck." Not exactly the thing you want to hear the year before you need to find a job. And we got to ask questions about things such as how much should you charge for a translation, how do the contracts work. Okay, so I'll go through some of the things we did during our classes. We did group translations where we all got a printout of the same website. I think we did one for our university website, and we were told to translate it. We did translations from English to Dutch and Dutch to English. And then we had to kind of present our choices, because one of the most important things about translating and learning the process of translation is being able to explain why you made these choices. I think one of the first things we had to do was a back translation for the first page of The Catcher in the Rye. We got 4 different Dutch translations from different time periods. We had to translate it back into English and then kind of decide the time frame, so which one was the oldest and which one was the most modern translation. For one course every week someone got to select a piece of text from their favorite book or maybe their favorite poem, and then they could assign that to the rest of the class, and then next week we would go through it. I think I picked a section of like the last 1 or 2 pages from Looking for Alaska, and it was so much fun to see people pick out bits from their favorite book, and you could tell they knew a lot more about it than we did when we were translating. We encountered lots of accents. What very often happens, especially when it comes to British lit, there'll be one character who's like the caretaker or the farm boy, and he will have a very specific dialect from a very specific region to kind of show you that he's not of the same class. But then how do you translate that, for example, into Dutch? You can't just take a farmer's accent and put that on that character because it would sound absolutely ridiculous. So what I found funny was that what happens quite a lot is you make up your own accent that kind of will give people the same feeling for that character, but that is not specifically picked from a region in the Netherlands, which is kind of what I feel like happened with Hagrid in Harry Potter. Another favorite was when someone picked a bit from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to translate. Yeah, good luck translating the ravenous buck bladder beast of Trawl. And then you have poetry and song lyrics. And trust me, it can take about 5 hours to translate a 10-line poem. Do you want to keep the rhythm, the rhyme, the puns, the meaning, or maybe just the general feeling of the poem? And there are always multiple versions that were really good, but completely different. There aren't really any like specific rules, but everyone had their own preference for translating certain cultural things. For example, in a children's book, if kids go have some fish and chips, in Dutch would you then translate that as them going to have fries with mayonnaise, because for all the kids know the book could be set in the Netherlands, or do you want to kind of teach them about different cultures and leave the fish and chips in? Then at the end of the year we had to write a thesis, and I decided to write mine on, big surprise, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I thought this was a particularly interesting book because it's written in English about American teenagers by an author who was writing it while he was in the Netherlands, and it includes a bit where the teenagers go to Amsterdam and talk to Dutch people who are speaking English, but also mention Dutch people speaking Dutch. So I thought that would be quite a fun challenge. What I did was I selected a bit from the part where they're in Amsterdam. I hadn't read the actual Dutch translation yet, so I made my own translation, explained all my choices, then read the Dutch translation and compared both of our versions. It was difficult because there were some parts where I felt like I had more knowledge because I've been just watching John Green's videos for forever and I've had the opportunity to hear him talk about it quite a lot. So should I take those things into consideration or should I just pretend that I don't know them? That was kind of a really fun but stressful adventure. When I started my first translation courses, I immediately noticed kind of a big change because I never used to speak up in class. And then when I started my translation classes, I had to stop myself from speaking up because there were all these things that I felt like I could contribute to the class or that I just found so interesting to talk about. So I know that having a career in translation is hard, but comparing my year of studying literature for my master's and then the year of doing translation, I feel like by switching it up and picking something different than what I did during my bachelor's was such a good decision. It's kind of a chance to go into something that's still related to what you did during your bachelor's, but to kind of discover new things. So for those of you who don't know, I am currently working at a publishing company and I'm not doing any translation. I'm doing social media and video stuff. But I do want to make it a goal to, in my free time, keep practicing translation.